What's up, gamers? I was on YouTube and I came across this documentary. It was about men tickling each other. Nah, dead ass. Nah, I'm not even joking. So David Ferrier, he's a New Zealand reporter. One of the best New Zealand reporters, okay? He did an interview with Justin Bieber. You know, like prime Justin Bieber. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? He was out there and he was like getting interviews with everybody. Carrot Top, Waka Flocka. It just goes to show that they do shit different in New Zealand. So David Ferrier, he's trying to peruse through the internet and he's trying to find his next big hit. He finds a video of a competitive tickle fight, which it's exactly what you think it is. It's a bunch of men tickling each other for sport. Anyways, the event is run by a company in LA and they fly out young, strapping, attractive, athletic dudes and pay them $1.50 just to get tickled. Which you gotta think about it, because like if I were to get offered $1.50, $1,500 to just get tickled, I would not be here right now. And despite the grievances that happen in this documentary, I'd still be on their payroll. You know, you get $1.50 per video. I got $0 on every single one of the videos I made. I'm trying to get rich. And if my pathway to getting rich is to get fondled by men, then so be it. Anyways, so David finds this and he's like, wow, this is really interesting. I want to do an interview with Jane O'Brien Media company that's running the whole event, but they decline, saying they don't want to be associated with a homosexual. That's ironic, right? Because I'm not too sure if David Ferrier is a homosexual, but if he is, the shit that he does in the bed, that's like behind closed doors. Y'all are marketing your, you know, your fantasy. So it's like, yeah, that's a little ironic for you to be acting like that. And not only do they like just like decline him, they're persistent. Like they flame him over email for like weeks. They're like typing away, nah, we don't want to be a part of your interview. By the way, you're gay. And then they did that on repeat for weeks on end. Like 2 weeks later, they're like, by the way, you're still gay. So basically David, he sees all these emails and, you know, he's like wondering, like, they're really harsh for people who's making videos on something so delightful like tickling. You figure it takes a real freak to make something so childlike. When I think of tickling, I think about like when you're playing as a kid. After seeing this documentary, now I feel weird talking about it. It took the childlike wonder that is tickling and just stripped everything away. Took that shit to another level, okay, where it didn't need to be. So after that, David basically makes an article. He kind of exposes the entire operation, including all the emails and, you know, just the fact that they're tickling each other for sport. And it goes viral, okay? Podcasts are on it. Media is on it. The works. They're all talking about this tickle league. So after he gets a lot of, you know, commotion and he starts getting traction on his story, he decides that he wants to make a documentary on this. 2 weeks later, Jane O'Brien Media serves him a hot plate of lawsuit. Basically, Jane O'Brien hires a lawyer, basically saying, you better stop or else I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna put an end to this shit. They even threatened to send 3 people to check on him. So Jane O'Brien, they send the 3 people over. David rage baits them, holding a big ass sign. It says some shit like, well, I'm tickled to meet you. They basically get a little agitated. David is just like, I'm just trying to show you the New Zealand hospitality. They finally get to have a proper meeting with Jane O'Brien's tickle crew. And they talk about Jane like she's the boogeyman. Like they're just sitting here like, she has no rules, no boundaries. They even threatened David's partner, Dylan, who's also working on the story. And the way they were threatening this dude, they were just like, it would be a real shame if something bad happened to Dylan. You know, he seems really adamant. Do you think that he really wants to keep his family safe? What about his kid? He should be worried more about that. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? They're talking, they oh my God. They're over here popping off over some tickling. This is insane. So after they realize that they're not really gonna get any help from these employees, they decide that they're gonna go investigate on their own. So they fly out to LA to go see the crew for themselves. They're trying to get some interviews with some of the athletes who are competing in this tickle league. All of them don't want to talk except for one guy, TJ. TJ just wanted to make a quick buck, okay? He didn't know that he'd be like tied down, strapped to the fucking tarmac. He didn't even know that there was gonna be a bunch of dudes. He didn't know he's gonna get tied down. He walked in. All right, where the bitches at? Oh my God. Yo, but the girls are gonna be here, right? The girls are gonna, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. No, it's all good. You know, $1.50. It's... So after that, TJ, you know, he does his thing. He gets tickled. He does a little bit of tickling. A few months after his little tickle sesh, he started to get a little ashamed. So he decided that he was gonna get the videos taken down. And Jane O'Brien starts threatening him, doxing him, and just ruining his life. All because of tickling. His life was basically over as soon as he stepped into the studio. He hasn't really recovered since. You'll kind of notice this trend that happens where Jane O'Brien promises you everything. After you decide that you don't want to have any part of it, she'll basically tear your whole life down. So after the interview with TJ's done, David and Dylan decide that they're gonna go stake out Jane O'Brien Media's studio. There's like dudes getting pimped out. They're getting pimped into a building. Hours go by. You know that shit got hot and heavy in there. They're walking outside like, woo, I need a cigarette. A couple hours go by. They decide, fuck it, we're gonna storm in. Immediately blocked. They got walled off by like prime LeBron. So after that, they kind of like, Jane O'Brien basically cuts them off. Like they're not giving them any more information. David, he wants to go out and he wants to investigate, why are these people like this? So he goes out and he meets another self-described tickle artist. Just another dude. He like records in his house. Basically, the guy is just explaining what it is about tickling and why does he like it and yada yada yada. That doesn't matter. What does matter is that this dude is weird. So David basically asks this dude, is like, hey, when were you interested in like tickling? And the dude said, you know, I was pretty young. In my head when he said that, I was like, you know, he was probably like in his 20s. I felt like that made sense in my head. Motherfucker says 5. What? When I was 5, I didn't even know what I had for breakfast, okay? I was out there playing with Power Rangers, Bionicles, I had Transformers. I can't even imagine what it was like being his parents and tickling him and then finding out this motherfucker wanted it the whole time. I would throw up immediately. That it was so, man, that you know, this dude's not shy. He's not shy at all. David walked in and basically asked him, hey, so like, what are you like, what do you do? You would think that somebody who's like in this business would be like, you know, I like to create art. I like to express myself. This motherfucker said, yeah, no, I'm an extreme dominatrix and I like to tickle people with power tools. After meeting that guy, David's really trying to get into the weeds and he starts investigating this woman named Terry, a pioneer. She was like, dude, she was like the George Washington of like tickling. She was the founding father of this whole, you know, tickle wrestling. So David goes and interviews basically anybody that was connected to Terry. You basically come to realize that she has the same tactics as Jane O'Brien. They manipulate, promise money and fame, and if you decide that you want to leave, threats, humiliation, which is so weird because you already got tickled on camera. What's more embarrassing than that? Like, for example, this one kid who didn't want to be a part of that tickle life no more, wasn't about to thug it out anymore. He decides that he wants to leave. She DDoSed his college and then framed him over tickling. As the documentary progresses, they realize that Terry isn't a woman. Terry is a man named David D'Amato, the Tickle King. He was basically using a fake alias. By the way, Terry was a dead woman and he stole her identity to make tickle videos, which is like so crazy. And like, just imagine this dude is like, he's cranking his hog to these tickle videos. You know, I think he's just cranking his hog to the fact that he like can manipulate all these people, having them do whatever he wants them to do. Like, he's out there, he's just like, yeah, sonny, just keep tickling that boy. So David D'Amato, he's a Nepo baby. Daddy was a big-time lawyer and basically gave David D'Amato the company. He was also an ex-assistant principal, which is so disgusting, knowing the type of shit that he'd be doing in the future. Later on in his life, he got arrested. You know how he like stole identities like Terry, but that didn't stop him because even in jail, the empire was still alive. No, while he was in jail, he still had the people on his payroll, you know, continue the empire and basically produce more and more videos. After a while, the Terry alias kind of goes away. Terry just disappears. Conveniently, around the same time, Jane O'Brien pops up. It gets the gears turning, right? You start to really think about like, who else is this person? You know, it kind of wraps up. They meet more people. It's kind of the same thing. You come to find out that David D'Amato never really got in trouble for the shit that he did. He died in like 2017 I think a year before this documentary came up, so he never really got to face the consequences. And as for Jane O'Brien Media, yep, that's right, they are still making videos to this day. I'm not certain if they're still making new videos, but they are reposting old videos at least, and their Facebook is still up. So, you know, we don't know what's going on behind those studio doors, okay? You know, you think of LA, you think of palm trees, you know, beautiful beaches, and now all I can think about is fondling men and just the freakiest shit you can think about. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. A little bit different of a format, but no, this video was really fun. If you guys want to see more videos, you know, just keep doing what you guys are doing. Let's just have the views go up and up and up, and we'll see if we can make this happen. Anyways, catch you guys in the next one. See ya.